to garden and to have food freely available. They're not supposed to sell those, and it's given away freely. But where we want to do the multiplier effect and create economic impact is where we're telling them, okay, you've been doing it on a small scale as a hobby. Are you now prepared to take it up a notch? Take some acreage, and we're going to throw some resources behind you. Make it into a business. Grow more than you can eat. Sell it. We can pay for the table, for the display unit, for your signage, for your cooling equipment, for the rototiller you need to till the ground, just about any fixed asset that you need to get this business venture started. So yes, we are trying to address it, and that is part of why we are trying to create a multiplier and upscale what has been going on, because we realize that it is in covering more ground that we can have more food readily available. And I think demand and supply will come into play. If we just increase the supply enough, where the market forces of competition will come in. Right now, we don't have enough. And so the scarcity is driving the cost up. If we create enough economic activity where we have enough competition, people will be forced to reduce prices to sell.
The one thing that I would add,
which would be bad for you, because then your tomato wouldn't be selling for what it's worth.
Well, it's competition.
the one thing I would add is that I do think community gardens are going to play, and backyard gardening are going to play a huge role in the food access issue. And the way I think about it is kind of like energy efficiency versus renewable energy. If you save, if you make energy efficiency improvements in your house, your electric bill is going to go down. If you grow as much of your own food as you can in the community garden in your backyard, then your food bill is going to go down. So, and if we ate less. So I think looking at really sort of radical resource productivity as that first step. How can we reduce our bill as much as possible, and then whatever's left, can we buy it at the store? I mean, I would much in many ways much rather have people growing their own food than me selling it to them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I think we have another question.
Hello, my name is Akani Thomas, and I'm an AmeriCorps Vista member at Burtonville Card Development, and I also received a Reimagining grant for a small pocket park on my street where I live. My question is about the Cleveland Municipal School District. While we're growing all this food, has anyone thought about having every Cleveland school building having an edible schoolyard that's necessary? Have we thought about, instead of buying packaged lunches and putting them in a big microwave, actually buying from our farmers markets and, feeding the kids fresh food? I just wonder if that's even something that the state or the city or you guys are even thinking about.
I don't see, I see public health people in the room, and I see council members in the room. I don't know if I see any CMSD officials in the room. Are there? It's a great question. It's been put down on the record. Director Boggs?
Yeah, there's a couple things happening. One is the state does have, we're just funding a farm-to-school program where we're trying to make sure that kids understand more about the nutrition and the value of food and what to eat and how to prepare it. The other thing is trying to get legislation passed that would give advantages, again, economic subsidies perhaps, that would allow public institutions to purchase locally produced food, even though it might be slightly higher than the lowest and best bid provisions in law today. So that's a very important process, and there are a lot of schools now that have reached agreements with local producers where they have a salad bar that has local food there.
And there are schools that are not public schools. I know that Urban Community School has a great backpack program where they send fresh produce home with the children. But Ifoma, is there more that the city can do in partnership with the school district?
Actually, Ohio State University Extension, who is our technical assistance provider to the urban gardeners and the market gardeners, they are working diligently with the state. I recently had a discussion with Morgan, who is in the back. She's my mentor. They are actually taking the leadership in working with CMSD on making sure that the farm to school and other initiatives with the school district come to fruition.
Yeah, I think that's another huge driver. I mean, around the local food movement as a whole, And not to insert too dark of a note here, but there was a school garden at the Kentucky school in the Ohio City neighborhood, and a teacher there had been working on that garden with students, and had he still been employed by the school district, unfortunately he was laid off in the last round of layoffs, he would have been here with those students. And so that garden's really now just going to seed. So if anybody wants to work with students in Ohio City on reviving that garden, there's a real opportunity there. The second thing that I would say about, as far as getting local food into schools, the way that I look at it, the only way that's really ever going to happen is if we're packing our lunches. I mean, even if we required schools to spend $1 more per student than they do, that wouldn't even come close to financing really, really good local food. And so, that might be possible in Berkeley, maybe, where they've had some success in doing that. But in a school district like Cleveland, that's just tremendously difficult. And so I think we need to start looking at, how can we encourage behavioral change in the home first, and then start to look at, how can we create some systems change. But it's another huge driver that there really isn't an easy answer to, because the budget is so paltry.
My name is Tiffany Leeper. I'm with the North Union Farmers Market. My question for anyone is, with urban farms and urban gardening, what are the considerations for soil remediation? Does that impact how they operate economically? And is there an attempt to involve extension services and other groups that can help in making sure these farms are healthy and producing healthy food?
Peter, you want to take that? And Graham, we'll hear from you too.
Yes. I mean, soil's a big issue. Certainly if you can plant directly in the soil, it's less expensive to start up than bringing in new soil and creating raised beds. And certainly there is a risk of lead contamination in a lot of soils in the city. In general, I would say that the perception generally is greater than the risk. Particularly when you look at sort of the science behind it and the fact that the real risk is from exposure directly to the soil rather than uptake into the plant tissue. Not that there isn't risk. I don't want to downplay that. But certainly, if you're working with kids, that should be a much bigger concern. I would say the startup costs would be greater, and there probably are some vacant lots in the city where it just doesn't make sense to do much gardening, or if you do, then doing some containerized system. In hoop houses or something like that. But it's definitely a concern.
I know for us it would have been a deal breaker to, on that scale, turn that lot into a farm had it not been remediated upon the demolition of these single and double-story housing complexes that were on Riverview Terrace. We went in there in January, and this was just when the conversation was really heating up, and took those soil samples, and had they come back and had metals in the soil, I wouldn't be sitting here and we wouldn't have Ohio City Farm, or unless we'd have it on a much smaller scale.
Director Boggs, is there this is our last question, and we only have a few moments for it, but is there a sense among the farmers, the large-scale farmers that you work with, who we now would think of as traditional, and these guys are the radicals, but is there a sense among the traditional farmers that that this is a good thing, a bad thing, that they want to partner, that they want to help?
Good and bad. I mean, both sides claim the department spends too much time with the other side and addressing their problems. What they see as an advantage is the more people we get involved in backyard gardening and community gardens, we reconnect agriculture with our citizens. A lot of people have moved off the farm. They don't understand food production. They don't understand farming and agriculture because of that. And so there's been a disconnect in our food policy with the way we produce it for some time, and this helps to reestablish that connection. Very positive thing.
So, okay, but the bad thing is they don't get enough of your attention.
Well, the department's attention, the resources.
The resources, okay. Well, there's obviously a lot more we could be talking about. We only have an hour. I want to thank you all. Peter McDermott of Entrepreneurs for Sustainability, Graham Veazey of the Ohio City Near West Development Corporation, Ifeoma Ezekwe of the City of Cleveland, and Director Bob Boggs of the Ohio Department of Agriculture. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan Moulthrop. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. This program is now adjourned.